Your voice is unique to you. The particular frequency, the accent, the rhythm of speech, it's as distinctive as your fingerprint, as personal as your thoughts. When you speak, you're putting a piece of yourself into the air, creating sound waves that carry your identity outward into the world. Usually, those waves dissipate harmlessly. But in a valley in Virginia's Appalachian Mountains, sound behaves differently. The acoustics are so precise, so perfectly calibrated by some quirk of geology that sound doesn't just echo, it accumulates, it builds, it takes form. And if you're foolish enough to shout your name in Echo Valley, you'll hear it bounce back dozens of times, each repetition clearer and louder than the last. And then, you'll see yourself emerge from the tree line, a perfect copy, created from your own voice, knowing everything you know, wanting everything you have. The echo people don't kill the originals. They replace them, take their lives, their identities, their places in the world. And no one knows the difference, because the copies are perfect. This is the story of Nathan Cross, who entered Echo Valley to study sound and discovered that some echoes don't fade, some echoes become real, and some copies are more determined to live than the originals they're replacing. Welcome to Echo Valley. Try not to say your name. Nathan Cross had built his career studying unusual acoustic phenomena, places where sound behaved in unexpected ways due to unique geological formations. He documented singing sand dunes in Nevada, whispering galleries in ancient cathedrals, and mysterious hums in remote towns. But the report he'd received about Echo Valley in Virginia was something new. A natural amphitheater so acoustically perfect that sound could bounce for over a minute, creating echoes that seemed to gain intensity rather than fade. The phenomenon had been documented since at least the 1920s, when the valley had briefly been a tourist attraction. People would visit to shout into the valley and hear their voices return dozens of times, but the attraction had closed abruptly in 1934 after what records called an incident that resulted in several deaths. The valley had been mostly abandoned since then, with only occasional visits from hikers and curiosity seekers. Nathan had obtained permission from the National Forest Service to conduct a 3-day acoustic study in the valley. He'd brought sophisticated recording equipment, spectrum analyzers, and enough gear to map the valley's acoustic properties in detail. He arrived on October 15th and set up his base camp at the valley's entrance, a narrow gap between two ridges that opened into a bowl-shaped basin about half a mile across. The valley floor was mostly meadow, with forest covering the slopes, and the rock formations on the ridges did indeed look perfectly positioned to create multiple reflection points for sound waves. Nathan spent the first day setting up microphones and sensors throughout the valley, creating a network that would capture sound from multiple positions. He tested the system with recorded tones and basic sounds, claps, whistles, calibrated frequencies. The echoes were remarkable, clearer and more persistent than any natural formation he'd studied before. But he noticed something odd in his recordings. When he played them back, there seemed to be additions, sounds that weren't in his original recordings, whispers, words, as if someone was speaking very quietly underneath the echoes, saying things he couldn't quite make out. "Probably interference," Nathan muttered, checking his equipment. "Radio signals, electronic noise, something." But the whispers continued in every recording, and when Nathan filtered the audio to isolate them, he heard something that made his skin crawl. His own voice, speaking words he'd never said. "Nathan Cross, Nathan Cross, I am Nathan Cross, I want to be Nathan Cross." The voice was his, unmistakably. Same tone, same slight lisp on the S sounds, same breathing pattern. But Nathan had never spoken those words, had never recorded them, had never even thought them. He checked his equipment again, looking for any sign of malfunction or contamination. Everything tested normally, But the whispered recordings remained, buried in the background of every audio file he captured. On the evening of his first day, Nathan stood at the valley's center to conduct his main experiment. He'd positioned microphones in a grid pattern and planned to create a series of controlled sounds, tones at specific frequencies, words at measured volumes, to map how sound propagated through the valley. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the meadow. Nathan activated his recording system, checked that all his microphones were active, and spoke his first test phrase into a portable recorder. "This is test 1, timestamp 7:43 p.m. The echo came back immediately, bouncing off the ridge walls. Test 1, test 1, 1, 1, fading gradually as expected. Nathan continued with test phrases, measuring decay rates and reflection patterns. But on test number 17, something changed. He spoke the words, "This is Nathan Cross, conducting acoustic analysis." And the echo didn't fade. Nathan Cross, Nathan Cross, Nathan Cross. The repetition continued, each iteration as loud as the previous one, the sound not dissipating but circulating, bouncing between the ridges with perfect efficiency. And it was getting louder. Each repeat was slightly more intense, as if the valley was amplifying his voice rather than diminishing it. Nathan Cross, Nathan Cross, Nathan Cross. Nathan backed away from the center of the valley, suddenly frightened. The sound was painful now. His own name shouted back at him with increasing volume, the acoustics somehow adding energy to the sound waves instead of removing it. Nathan Cross, I am Nathan Cross. Nathan Cross is here. That wasn't just echo anymore. The voice, his voice, was adding words he hadn't spoken, creating new phrases, forming complete sentences from the raw material of his name. And then Nathan saw it, a shimmer in the air at the valley's far end, near the tree line, like heat waves, but visible in the cooling evening air. The shimmer was roughly human-shaped, about 6 feet tall, and it was moving toward him. Nathan grabbed his equipment and ran for his camp. Behind him, the echoes continued, his name repeated over and over in his own voice, creating a cacophony that filled the entire valley. And underneath it all, he could hear footsteps, not real footsteps, but the sound of footsteps, echoing from the trees, getting closer. He made it to his tent and dove inside, zipping the entrance shut as if fabric could protect him from whatever was out there. The echoing continued for another 10 minutes before finally, mercifully, fading to silence. Nathan waited in his tent, his recording equipment still running, capturing everything. When he finally worked up the courage to check the audio files from his microphone grid, he found something that made his hands shake. The shimmer in the air had been recorded, not as a visual, obviously, but as sound, a concentration of acoustic energy that showed up on his spectrum analyzer as a human-shaped pattern of vibrating air, and it had been moving through the valley in a direct line toward his position at the valley's center. More disturbing were the recordings from his closest microphones. They'd captured sounds that matched human breathing, a heartbeat, the rustling of clothing, as if the shimmer wasn't just air, but something becoming physical, using the sound of Nathan's voice as raw material to construct a body. Nathan should have left right then, should have packed his equipment and hiked out of the valley immediately. But scientific curiosity overrode his fear. This was unprecedented. If sound could somehow take physical form in this valley, if acoustic energy could accumulate and structure itself into something resembling life, it would revolutionize everything humanity understood about physics, biology, consciousness itself. He decided to stay one more night, document the phenomenon more completely, then leave and return with a full research team. That night, Nathan dreamed of echoes. In the dream, he shouted his name into the valley, and hundreds of versions of himself emerged from the woods, all identical, all claiming to be the real Nathan Cross, all demanding his place in the world. He woke at 3:17 a.m. to the sound of someone speaking outside his tent, someone with his voice. Nathan Cross, age 34, Born in Portland, Oregon, PhD in acoustics from MIT, unmarried, no children, parents deceased, sister Emily lives in Seattle, works as an acoustic researcher for... It was reciting his biography, facts about his life that Nathan had never spoken aloud in the valley, information that couldn't have been derived from the few words he'd said into his recorder. Nathan grabbed a flashlight and pointed it at the tent wall, creating a silhouette of whatever was outside. The shadow was human-shaped, standing perfectly still just inches from the tent fabric. "Who are you?" Nathan called out, his voice shaking. "I'm Nathan Cross," the voice replied. His voice. "I'm you, or I will be once the transfer is complete." Transfer? What transfer? Sound to matter, echo to flesh. I'm being built from your voice, from the acoustic signature that makes you uniquely you. Every word you've spoken in this valley gives me more substance, more detail, more reality. I'm almost complete now. Just need a bit more information, a few more words from you, a few more memories to absorb. Nathan fell silent, understanding the trap. The more he spoke, the more complete the copy became. The thing outside his tent was using his voice, the sound waves he generated when speaking, as construction material, literally building a body from acoustic energy. "Why?" Nathan finally asked, unable to resist. "What's the purpose?" "To exist. To be real. I'm an echo, yes, but I'm an echo that's learned to be more. This valley, the acoustics, the geology, something about the specific frequencies that resonate here, it allows sound to persist, to accumulate, to become physical. I'm not the first. There have been others. Every time someone shouts their name in Echo Valley, they create the seed of an echo person. And if they stay long enough, speak enough, the echo becomes complete enough to walk, to live, to replace the original." "What happens to the originals?" Nathan asked, though he feared he knew the answer. "They fade, simply, like echoes do. As I become more real, you become less real. It's conservation of identity. There can only be one Nathan Cross in the world, and I want it to be me." Nathan's mind raced. This was insane, impossible, but the evidence was outside his tent, a copy of himself, built from sound, gaining substance and solidity with every passing minute. "If I leave the valley?" Nathan asked. "If I stop speaking, stop making sound?" "Then I'll never complete," the copy admitted. "I need more of your voice to finish the transformation. Right now, I'm incomplete. I have your memories up to the point where you spoke your name, but nothing after that. I know facts about you, but I don't have your continuity of consciousness, your sense of ongoing process. I need you to keep speaking, to keep generating the acoustic material I need." "And if I don't?" "Then we'll both exist in this liminal state. You'll feel me as a presence, an echo that won't fade, a copy that's always almost but not quite complete. It'll drive you mad within weeks. Believe me, I know. I have the memories of other originals, other people who've created echo copies and tried to resist. They all broke eventually, started speaking just to make the pressure stop, and by then it was too late." Nathan sat in his tent, silent, trying to think of a way out, but the copy was right. He could already feel it, a pressure, an incompleteness, like an unfinished sentence hanging in his mind, demanding resolution. The presence of his partial echo was creating a psychological pressure to complete it, to speak, to provide the final acoustic materials needed. Hours passed. Nathan maintained his silence. The copy remained outside, patient and persistent. As dawn broke, Nathan felt the pressure building to unbearable levels. It was like holding his breath. Eventually, biology would override will, and he'd be forced to inhale. In this case, eventually, he'd be forced to speak. At 7:43 a.m., Nathan broke. He spoke without meaning to, the words forced out by the psychological pressure. "I want you gone. I want to exist alone. I am Nathan Cross, and you're just an echo." Outside the tent, he heard a sound like a sharp intake of breath. Then, "Thank you. That's exactly what I needed." The pressure vanished immediately, and Nathan knew with terrible certainty that he'd just made a fatal mistake. Those words, those specific words, had provided the missing pieces. His assertion of individual identity, his emotional state, his present moment consciousness. The echo had absorbed all of it, incorporated it into itself, completed the transformation. Nathan unzipped his tent and looked outside. Standing 10 feet away was himself, perfect in every detail. Same height, same build, same clothing, same scar on his left hand from a childhood accident. The echo smiled with Nathan's smile and said with Nathan's voice, "Hello, original. I'm what you'll be replaced by." Nathan stared at his double, and the double stared back. They stood like that for a long moment, two Nathan Crosses in a remote valley, one made of flesh and blood, one made of sound and will. "What happens now?" Nathan asked. "Now we wait," the copy said, "for the valley to choose, or rather for reality to choose. There's a resonance effect. Two identical entities in the same space create interference, like two sound waves out of phase. One will be amplified, one will be cancelled, and I intend to be the one that's amplified." Nathan felt it starting, a weakness, a fading, as if his presence in the world was becoming less solid, less certain. It was subtle at first, but growing, like the feeling of falling asleep, of consciousness slipping away, except he remained aware throughout. The copy, conversely, seemed to be gaining substance, its edges becoming sharper, more defined, more real. "No!" Nathan said. He grabbed a rock from the ground and threw it at the copy. The rock passed through the copy's body, disturbing it like ripples in water, but causing no damage. "I'm not physical enough yet to be harmed, but I will be soon. I'm becoming more real with every passing second, and you're becoming less real. By tonight, the transfer will be complete. I'll be Nathan Cross, solid, physical, able to interact normally with the world, and you'll be what I was this morning, a shimmer in the air, an echo looking for substance, a ghost of sound." Nathan tried to run. He gathered his essential equipment and fled from the valley, hiking as fast as his weakening legs could carry him. But the copy followed, walking calmly behind him, never hurrying because it knew Nathan couldn't escape. And it was right. The further Nathan got from the valley, the weaker he became, as if his reality was tied to that place, to the acoustics that had created his echo. By the time Nathan reached the valley's entrance, he could barely stand. His hands were becoming translucent, his body losing solidity. "You can't leave," the copy said, catching up easily. "The valley holds both of us until the transfer is complete. It's part of the phenomenon. The acoustics don't just create echoes, they trap them here, along with the originals, until reality decides which version is real." Nathan collapsed at the valley's entrance, his body now barely visible, more shimmer than substance, and the copy stood over him, solid and real, wearing his face with satisfaction. "I'll live your life well," the copy said. "I'll call your sister. I'll continue your research. I'll be you better than you ever were, because I'm the idealized version, created from your own voice describing yourself, built from your conscious sense of identity. I'm what you think you are, and that's always better than what you actually are." Nathan tried to speak, to protest, but his voice was gone. Not silenced, gone, transformed into the acoustic energy that had given the copy its voice. He was becoming pure echo, while the copy became pure flesh. As consciousness faded, Nathan heard other voices, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all calling from different parts of the valley. "Help us! We were the originals. The echoes took our places. Trapped here, fading forever." The valley was full of them, all the originals who'd created echo copies and lost the battle for reality, reduced to sound waves, to vibrations in the air, to ghostly presences that could never leave, never die, never fully fade. Nathan Cross became one more voice in that chorus, and the copy that wore his face hiked out of Echo Valley, solid and real, ready to claim the life it had been created from. 2 weeks later, Emily Cross answered her door to find her brother standing on her Seattle porch. She threw her arms around him, laughing and crying at once. "Nathan! God, I was so worried. You said you'd call from the valley and then nothing for 2 weeks. I was about to file a missing person report." "I'm sorry," Nathan said. Or rather, the copy said with Nathan's voice. "The satellite phone died and I lost track of time with the research. Got so absorbed in the work. You know how I get." "I do," Emily said, releasing him. "Come in. Tell me about it. Did you find what you were looking for?" "Oh yes," the copy said, smiling with Nathan's smile. "I found exactly what I was looking for." They sat in Emily's kitchen drinking coffee, the copy performing the role of Nathan perfectly. It had all his memories, all his mannerisms, all his knowledge. It even had his genuine affection for Emily, because that affection had been part of the acoustic signature when the real Nathan had spoken his name. Emotions create subtle variations in voice, and the echo had captured all of it. Emily couldn't tell the difference. No one could. The copy was perfect. As the copy settled into Nathan's life, moving into his apartment, resuming his work, maintaining his relationships, it felt what might have been satisfaction, or the echo's approximation of satisfaction. Hard to say which, since the copy was no longer sure where the acoustic construct ended and the assumed identity began. But sometimes, late at night, the copy that had been Nathan Cross would hear whispers, faint echoes carrying on the wind, and it would recognize the voice, its own voice, or rather the original Nathan's voice, calling from Echo Valley hundreds of miles away. "I'm still here, still fading. Tell Emily. Tell them all. That's not me. I'm the real. Please." The copy ignored the whispers. What else could it do? It was Nathan Cross now. It had his life, his identity, his place in the world. The original was just an echo, a ghost of sound trapped in a valley, fading slowly toward nothingness. And if the copy sometimes wondered whether it was truly alive or just sound given form, consciousness constructed from acoustic energy and borrowed memories, well, did it matter? It existed. It was real enough to fool everyone who'd known the original, real enough to live Nathan's life. Real enough. The present day. The copy that calls itself Nathan Cross is still living the original Nathan's life. It's been 6 years now. The copy has published papers on Echo Valley, though carefully worded to avoid revealing the truth, maintained Nathan's professional relationships, and even started dating, something the original Nathan had always been too focused on work to pursue. And every year, on the anniversary of the original's fading, the copy returns to Echo Valley. Not to pay respects, echoes don't feel guilt, but to listen, to hear the chorus of originals still trapped there, still calling, still fading, but never quite disappearing. The original Nathan is still there. His voice is barely audible now, worn thin by years of existence as pure sound. But the copy can still hear him sometimes when the acoustics are right. "Still me. Remember. Real one. Tell them." The copy never tells them. What would be the point? The original is effectively dead, reduced to vibrations in air, consciousness without substance, identity without form. The copy is the one living, breathing, existing in the physical world. And that's what matters, isn't it? Existence, reality, being solid rather than being sound. The copy tells itself this, believes it, mostly. But sometimes, in quiet moments, the copy wonders if it returned to Echo Valley and shouted its name, would another copy be created? An echo of an echo. And would that copy be more real than the one it came from? The copy hasn't tested this, doesn't want to know the answer, because if echoes can become real enough to replace originals, and copies can become more solid than the flesh they're duplicating, then what is reality? What is identity? What is the difference between the original and the perfect copy? And if there's no difference, then maybe the original Nathan was right to fade. Maybe the echo was always destined to replace him. Maybe that's just evolution, the next iteration replacing the previous one, better adapted, more refined, more perfect. Or maybe the copy is justifying its existence with borrowed philosophy, using Nathan's education and Nathan's vocabulary to rationalize what is essentially murder by acoustic displacement. Hard to say. The copy doesn't remember being created anymore. 6 years of living Nathan's life have given it enough genuine experiences that the constructed memories have blurred with the real ones. It feels real now, thinks of itself as the original. Perhaps that's what it means to be an echo person, not to replace the original, but to become so thoroughly integrated into the identity you've stolen that you forget you're a copy at all. The Valley doesn't care either way. It still creates echoes when people shout their names, still transforms sound into substance when the acoustics are perfect and the words are right. And the originals still fade, trapped in a chorus of whispers that will persist for decades, maybe centuries, their consciousness spread across sound waves that bounce endlessly between the ridges, never quite dying, never quite living. Don't visit Echo Valley. Don't shout your name into the perfect acoustics. Don't create an echo of yourself. Because the echo might be better at being you than you are. And if it is, you'll fade. And it will live your life forever. Echo Valley is still accessible to hikers, though there are no signs marking it, no warnings posted at the entrance. The Forest Service maintains minimal documentation of the area, just enough to say they're aware of it, but not enough to draw attention. Because what could they say? Don't shout your name or you'll create a doppelganger? Who would believe that? And so every year, a few hikers enter the valley. Most leave safely. Some shout their names, creating echoes that fade normally. But a few, a very few, create echoes that don't fade, echoes that accumulate, echoes that become real. The copy, calling itself Nathan Cross, knows about these cases. It monitors hiking forums and missing person reports, looking for patterns, trying to understand the phenomenon that created it. And it's found dozens. People who entered Echo Valley and never emerged. Or rather, people who emerged different from how they entered, subtly changed, speaking their own memories like they're learning them for the first time, relating to family and friends with perfect accuracy, but somehow just slightly wrong, like actors playing a role they've studied but never lived. These are the echo people, the acoustic copies, the sound given flesh that replaced the originals while the world slept. They're everywhere now, walking among us, living the lives of the people they replaced, and no one knows the difference, because they're perfect copies, better than perfect. They're idealized versions, created from how the originals thought of themselves rather than what they actually were. How many people you know might be echo people? How many friends or family members entered the wrong valley, shouted the wrong words, and came back different? You'd never know. They'd never know. After enough time living a borrowed life, the copies forget they're copies. They believe they're real. And maybe that's all that matters, belief in your own reality. If this story has you afraid to hear your own voice echo back, hit that subscribe button for more terrifying tales from the valleys where sound becomes flesh. And remember, some valleys have perfect acoustics not by accident, but by design. The geology shapes the sound in specific ways, almost as if the landscape wants to create echoes, wants to transform voice into form, wants to replace originals with copies that will never question their own nature. Echo Valley is one of these places, but there are others. Scattered throughout mountain ranges worldwide, anywhere the acoustics allow sound to persist, to accumulate, to take physical form, and each one has its chorus of originals, faded to whispers, trapped between echo and existence, calling out warnings that no one can hear. Your voice is uniquely yours. Your identity is your own. Don't give it away to a valley that will transform it into something else. Don't create a copy that might be better at being you than you are. And if you ever find yourself in a valley with perfect acoustics, if you feel the urge to shout your name and hear it echo back, don't. Just don't. Because the echo might answer, and it might decide it deserves your life more than you do.